Hey there friends, I'm Leo, and today I'm going to talk about the whole process of making a small fan game about the Moistverse. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of late to the party, but I started working on this game before Christmas, and it was something that I was going to be doing while I was on holidays. So the Moistverse got started when the first variant, the Puerto Rican Moist Critical, just appeared, and then Critical made a video about it. And then all hell broke loose. We got a bunch of new variants that I can't even name all of them. There are Japanese Moist Critical, Discord mod Moist Critical, Dog Moist Critical, and the list goes on and on. So with that, I had the idea, what about making a video game about the whole thing, where you would have different variants of Moist Critical, where each one would have different powers and could solve different puzzles. So maybe 4 variants where each one of them would have different abilities, and you would use that to save or to find other critical variants that would then unlock more possibilities that you could do to kind of get new areas or unlock new stuff inside of the game. Also, when I say combat and puzzles, I mean that very lightly, because this is almost not a game. It's like an experience. I'm gonna start doing like the Oculus Store does and just call it an experience, because it's only like half an hour if you really try to explore everything. But regardless, once I had finished making this little experience, I wanted to put it on Steam so that people could play and test it out for free. So let's talk about the very beginning of the development of this game, which was designing the story and the characters. So the main objective of the game is for you to adventure into this Moistverse that is kind of fractured, and then save your variants to defeat Evil Charlie, which is like an evil boss that is trying to destroy the Moistverse. So another thing that I planned was the player health and the player moistness, which is a resource that regenerates over time and you spend when you do any of the combat abilities for each one of your variants. And with that main goal in mind, I started thinking about each one of the Moist Critical variants and what their abilities could be. The OG Moist Critical would be able to double jump and scream. He would have the double jump ability, which would be the only way that you can traverse certain obstacles or certain boxes and advance through the story. And then he would have a scream or a battle cry where he just screams off the top of his lungs and terrorizes all of the nearby enemies. And then there's the Discord mod, and this guy is very slow and cannot even jump, but he can use his body to fall to the ground, making a massive kind of ground force around him that just destroys all of the enemies nearby, but it also costs a lot of moistness to perform. Another thing that the Discord Critical will be able to do is to hack into terminals, so then you can open certain doors for areas. The Chad Critical is a little bit of a mix between OG Critical and Discord Mod Critical, and I mean that because he's kind of not really that fast, but not really that slow. He can jump only once, so he's kind of an in-between. His abilities are the Healing Shake, which costs a lot of moistness, but once he drinks that, you basically get full health. And then the other ability is one where you can grab different boxes and place them around the map, which helps you solve puzzles. And then there's the last Moist Critical variant that you can find, which is the Dog Moist Critical. This good boy here is very fast and has a really cool sword, and you can just run through enemies and you will deal damage to them. But then you can also use your combat ability, which is kind of a sword slash that is going to deal double the damage. And this also costs very little moistness, so you can kind of spam that ability and just kill a bunch of enemies. And for the puzzle ability, he can go under certain passages that no one else can, which can allow you to get into certain areas. So in order for me to make this Charlie 3D model, I used a program called Character Creator 3, which has a really cool plugin that you can use where you can just take a picture of someone and then you turn that picture into a 3D face. So after generating the face, you get a couple of different preset for hairstyles, and the best thing is that you can use a morph slider to change all of the proportions on your character's body. So once I had the full model, I exported them over to Blender, where I changed the hair color and then I made their clothes. In Blender, I also made a skeleton for the characters and applied that on the character and the clothing. And then I exported all of that into Unreal Engine. For the animations themselves, some of them were by hand and most of them were by a website called Mixamo, where you can send your skeleton and then they make preset animations that you can download and then you can use that on your game. And for the dog, I used an asset on the marketplace for a German Shepherd, but then I sent that dog model over to Blender, which is where I made the clothing, and I made some custom animations for it as well, like the sword slash, and you can tell it was made by me because kind of sucks. So how about the design of the environments and the map itself? My idea at the very beginning was to maybe have some procedural level generation, where you would have certain areas that would allow you to unlock a new variant. And after unlocking the new variant, you would have a complete preset of new areas that you could explore, now with the new variant in mind. Kind of like a key and door system, and that would have worked, but that would have taken a lot longer to do. Even though it's procedural, it feels like you can reuse assets, but even then, it is a lot simpler to just make a small linear game. Maybe if the project was a little bit more ambitious, then for sure I could make something like that. So what I ended up doing is kind of a linear path that kind of resembles a star pattern with a hub area that you always come back to after you explore a different zone. You kind of come back to that hub, which then allows you to go to a different area because you just unlocked a new variant. So each one of these paths is completely done with the variant in mind, with you unlocking that variant at the very end of your path. And then preferably you use the power of that variant to come back to the hub area. So it's kind of like a very small tutorial once you just got a new variant that teaches you how to use their powers, basically. In order to tie all of these things together, I've made a Dialog Actor, which is basically a collision box where as soon as you enter it, it's going to start a new dialogue. So I can set the parameters of what the dialogue is myself inside of the editor, and as soon as you enter that collision, it's going to start the dialogue in question. There are also entries for evil critical, so I can make a discussion or a back and forth between critical and evil critical. And I know that the dialogue is very cheesy, over the top and silly, but I had a lot of fun making them. For example, evil critical, the video of him talking, I just had a very old video of critical and then I filmed over that using my phone with an Instagram goth filter. And then I sent that over to Unreal Engine as well. Next up is enemies, and honestly there's not a lot to talk about them, they're just kind of minions. For these enemies, I kind of went with an approach kind of similar to Rick and Morty, where you have like an army of Ricks or the Republic of Ricks or whatever, and then you have the soldiers that are all the same kind of. Picture something like that, but for dumb little minions that all come to try and attack you because they are all minions of evil critical. Now here's some deep lore for you guys. I did not even write this anywhere, but Evil Charlie grabs variants and corrupts them and transforms them into minions that he can rule over. So all of the minions that you see were once a shining, brilliant Moist Critical variant, but they all got corrupted by minionness, I guess. They're simple and very, very stupid. They just roam around until they see that the player is nearby, which then they will proceed to try to attack you and just run towards you. And they can't even run that fast, honestly. And then there's one status effect that can be applied to them, which is the scared status effect. This happens after you use your battle cry. They're going to be stun locked and kind of screaming or terrified for just a little bit, and then they will come back to try and get you again. They are just supposed to represent at least a little bit of challenge, because this game is very unchallenging and even my grandma could play this, honestly. And now let's talk about the edgiest Moist Critical variant, Evil Critical. I remember I once saw a video where Critical said that when he was younger, he really wanted to be an edgy anime protagonist, or one of those edgy, mysterious characters, and he would not even talk to people because he wanted to be this kind of cool, mysterious character, right? So then I thought, well, what if Evil Charlie is just Charlie that never stopped doing that, and he became an edgy anime character or a villain? Also, don't ask me why he has some armor and a sword. I just thought that, you know, I saw this cool little armor on the marketplace, and then I just wanted to have that on the game, I guess. So I brought the armor and critical, or evil critical, over to Blender, where I apply the armor. I have that assigned with the bone structure of Evil Critical, and then I brought that back to Unreal Engine. When designing the boss area, I wanted to make another reality change, but this time with a kind of dark and creepy cave, or a mysterious cave area. After grabbing all of the 4 variants, you're going to use their combined powers to open up these elevator doors. And then you can ride this elevator down so that you can reach the last boss area, or the only boss area, so the boss area. When designing the boss, I wanted him to be a little bigger, but also slower than you, with some attacks that deal regular damage, but then one AoE attack, and then another one that just spawns some minions. Also, there is a Dark Souls bootleg HUD that shows up when you get near the boss, which you need to bring that over to 0 so that you can finish the game. The fight itself is very simple. You can just kind of run around using the dog and you can kill everyone really fast. But if you really want to cheese the system, you can just grab OG Critical and jump on the top of the boss head and kind of balance yourself up there. You can kill him very easily. So once the boss is defeated, you will get one last dialogue exchange and GG, you've done it, and you will head back to the main menu. So this is the main menu, and I'm really happy with the result. It's my favorite part of the project, and it kind of resembles a little bit of Psychonauts to me, which I just started playing. And I think mostly because of the music or the soundtrack, which by the way is copyright free. I am pretty positive because I grabbed an asset pack from the marketplace that had a bunch of ambient music on it. So I am 99% positive that these are all copyright free. So if you guys enjoyed this little devlog video, consider checking out my other videos, which are also on other games. And I also have a project called Sparkmuts that is my main project, or my baby that I'm working on. So consider checking that out as well, which also has a Steam page if you want to check that out too. Also join the Discord community server. It's mostly for Sparkmuts, but it's due to a lot of things on the channel as well. And you can also grab some keys for the playtest of Sparkmuts there. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm Leo, signing off.